Hi there, I'm Darlie. I drove 18 hours through nonstop rain, barely slept, barely ate, just to surprise my parents for their 45th wedding anniversary. I showed up with a handmade gift and their favorite cake. But when I walked through that door, no one smiled. They hadn't just forgotten me. They'd erased me. A sister who lied, a mother who stayed silent, a gift tossed in a trunk. And that was just the beginning. What do you do when your own family pretends you don't exist? Would you still stay or walk away for good? I hadn't planned on driving 18 hours straight. Hell, I hadn't even packed a change of clothes when I left Portland. But when I saw that every flight to Sarasota was grounded, storm warnings screaming across every app on my phone, I threw my raincoat in the back seat, grabbed a cooler with the cake and left. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. I wanted it to be a surprise, a gesture, something big, something that said, I'm still part of this family. The windshield wipers barely kept up with the rain as I crossed state after state. Gas station coffee, bathroom sinks that barely worked, highway signs blurred by water and exhaustion. I drove with my hands clenched on the wheel and my heart clenched even tighter. The whole way down, I pictured Mom's face lighting up. Dad's voice cracking just a little when he saw me. Maybe even Terry Jo, my sister, giving me one of those eye rolls that secretly meant you did good. But what I got was silence. When I finally pulled into the driveway at midnight, the house was glowing with warmth, lights in every room, cars lining the curb. Laughter floated out from inside like a scene from some Hallmark movie. I stood in the rain for a moment, my shoes sinking into the grass, holding the box with the cake I'd risked hydroplaning for. My jeans were soaked through. I didn't even bother ringing the doorbell. I walked straight in. The room hushed, like I was a stranger who just barged into the wrong party. Terry Jo turned from the kitchen island, wine glass in hand, eyes wide. Darlie? Mom blinked at me, surprised. Oh, I thought you weren't coming. I looked around the living room. Balloons, flowers, a huge banner above the fireplace. 45 years of love, celebrated by family. Everything looked perfect. Except none of it included me. My throat was dry, my mouth trying to form words that wouldn't make things worse. I smiled instead, just enough to hide the sting. Surprise! Nobody clapped, nobody moved, just awkward glances and mumbled, Wow, you made it, as if I were someone's +1 they forgot to RSVP for. I set the cake down on the counter. Terry Jo raised a brow. You drove? She asked, like I'd shown up on a tractor. Flights were canceled. Thought I'd make the trip anyway, I said, trying to sound casual. Inside, I felt like my chest had caved in. I mean, you should have let us know, she added, taking a slow sip. We weren't exactly prepared. Like my presence was a disruption, a logistics problem. I scanned the room. There were family photos on the mantle, a looping slideshow on the TV with childhood memories, wedding anniversaries, beach vacations. I watched slide after slide pass. There was one of Terry Jo and her kids building a sandcastle with Mom and Dad. One of Wendy from next door giving Dad a big birthday hug. Even Terry Jo's ex-husband made an appearance. But not me. Not a single frame. Dad walked past with a drink in hand. He patted my shoulder like he was greeting a mail carrier. Good to see you, he muttered without stopping. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Someone behind me whispered, Did she just show up without telling anyone? I stood there a moment longer, listening to the glass clinking, the music, the easy laughter. None of it slowed for me. I excused myself to the guest bathroom, locked the door, stripped off my wet coat. My hands trembled as I wrung water from the hem of my jeans. I caught my reflection in the mirror, mascara smudged, hair flat from the rain. A face they didn't expect, a face they didn't include. I placed the cake, now slightly smudged, on the kitchen island. No one said thank you. I'd driven across the country, counting down the hours by state lines and truck stop coffee. For what? A nod from my dad? A side glance from my sister? Coming home wasn't supposed to feel like this. It wasn't supposed to feel like nothing. Link to next chapter. Then I saw the slide on the living room screen. The family tribute without my name or face. I stared at the slideshow looping on the living room TV. Photo after photo of smiling faces, family vacations, birthdays, graduations. My name was never spoken, And neither was my image included. It was like I had been erased with precision, like someone had gone out of their way to make sure I wouldn't be remembered. Then Wendy stepped up to the mic. Terry Jo's longtime friend, her shadow in every family function, the self-appointed MC of the evening. She cleared her throat and raised her champagne glass. "Tonight, I'm honored to speak on behalf of the family," Wendy began, her voice syrupy sweet. "And especially for Terry Jo, the daughter who's always been here, the steady heart, the one who held this family together." A ripple of applause, smiles, glasses raised. I blinked. My hands stayed at my sides. "On behalf of the family?" I didn't ask her to speak for me. "And what about the money I wired to help cover the deposit for this house 2 years ago? Or the summer I used all my PTO to help move them in? Forgotten, I guess." I slipped toward the patio door, phone in hand, pretending to scroll. A message I'd sent in the family group chat yesterday, a simple, "Almost there, hope the cake makes it intact," was gone. Deleted. Wendy brushed past me without looking up. "Didn't think you'd really show," she muttered, half under her breath. I clenched my jaw. It wasn't shock that hit me, it was clarity. Wendy wasn't surprised I came. She was disappointed. Terry Jo was in the center of it all, glowing like the matriarch in training. Mom beamed at her, arm hooked through Dad's. They looked like a complete family. I was the asterisk, the one they all silently agreed not to mention. I stepped out to the side yard, gravel crunching under my boots. I needed air, space, anything but that living room full of people pretending I wasn't there. That's when I heard it, Mom's voice, faint but clear through the open kitchen window. She was on a video call. "I know, baby," she said. "Well, at least now things can go back to normal. I didn't realize how tense it was with her around." Her words landed like a slap. My ears burned. I took a step closer to hear. Terry Jo replied, "Told you, Mom. She thrives on drama. Darlie's always been like that. She makes everything about her." I didn't flinch, didn't cry. I just stood there staring at the yard I'd helped landscape last spring. The little solar lights lining the walkway? I bought those. The "Bless This Home" sign near the porch? I painted it by hand. None of that mattered now. Inside, they toasted to family. Outside, I stood alone in the dark. I moved away from the side of the house, gravel crunching beneath each step as I made my way toward the garage. A porch light flickered overhead, casting long, warped shadows across the concrete. I wasn't sure if I needed air or just an excuse to stay away from the people who were supposed to love me. The side door to the garage was cracked open. I paused near it, ready to keep walking, until I heard my name. "Darlie," Wendy said, half laughing. "You really didn't think she'd come, right?" Inside, their voices were hushed but sharp, riding the edges of clinking wine glasses and forced giggles. Terry Jo snorted. "Honestly, I was hoping she'd get lost in the storm or something. It's been so nice around here without her." Wendy added, "Everything just flows better when she's not in the picture." My fingers curled into fists. I didn't step inside. I didn't give them the satisfaction. I just stood there listening. "She always has this need to prove something," Terry Jo went on. "It's exhausting. We finally have peace, and then, bam! She storms in like a wet warning sign." They laughed. Not the nervous kind. The kind you save for inside jokes and cruelty dressed up as truth. I stepped back, chest tight. My mind rushed to that afternoon last month, when Mom's checkup was missed, and I was the one blamed. The appointment had been scheduled on our shared family app, originally on the 10th. Then, without notice, it got moved to the 7th. Terry Jo said nothing. Mom assumed I'd dropped the ball. I'd apologized, sent a gift card to her favorite spa, called twice. No reply. Now it all made sense. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was layered, staged. They'd been setting the scene for months, slowly rewriting me out of their story. I stood there in the dark a little longer, let the sting sharpen into something clearer. Then I straightened my spine, ran a hand through my damp hair, and walked back toward the party like I belonged there, which I did. Inside, music played and people laughed, oblivious. I made my way to the drink table and poured myself a glass of red. Full. No shame. I passed Terry Jo by the fireplace. She caught my eye, lips parting slightly. Great weather, huh? I said evenly. She blinked. Yeah, I guess. I smiled without warmth. Been raining for hours. Funny how things wash up during a storm. Her lips tightened. I turned and raised my glass to no one in particular. Let them wonder what I knew. I didn't need lightning to strike. The storm was already inside me. As I raised my glass and let it hover just long enough for them to wonder, the weight of something unfinished tugged at me. I stepped quietly back out to the car. Inside the trunk was a long wooden case, wrapped in craft paper and tied with twine. I'd made it months ago, Oregon maple I'd sourced from a salvage yard near the coast. I'd sanded, carved, and stained it myself, etched with my parents' wedding date and a quote Mom used to keep on the fridge. Built on love, held by grace. It was art. Personal. Real. I brought it inside and placed it on the gift table, nestled between a designer cheese board set and a gift bag stuffed with tissue paper and perfume. I didn't wait for applause, just walked away. Later, I circled back through the dining room. The cake was half-eaten. Balloons had started to wilt. Laughter came and went like waves, careless. The gift I'd made was gone. I scanned the table again. Nothing. I stepped outside. Cool air brushed my skin. That's when I saw her. Terry Jo slamming the trunk of her Lexus shut. My gift in her hands just seconds before. I walked up slowly. Was something wrong with it? She didn't even flinch. Oh, that? It didn't match Mom's vibe. She's doing this whole minimalist chic thing now, but maybe she'll hang it in the garage. Wendy laughed behind her, loud and sharp. Or gift it to the neighbor. What's her name? Gina? The one who sells candles out of her shed? I didn't respond, just watched the rain slide down Terry Jo's windshield. Back inside, nobody noticed I was gone. Or back. That night, I barely slept. Curled in the guest bed that smelled like cinnamon plug-ins and dust, I stared at the ceiling fan and thought about every hour I'd spent making that piece. Every evening after work, every layer of stain, every hope that it would be a gift that meant something. By dawn, I was on the road. Stopped at a gas station 2 towns over for coffee and a donut. While waiting for the pump, I opened Facebook Marketplace just to scroll. Distraction, nothing more. There it was. Custom wood wall art handmade, never used, $20 OBO. Listed by Wendy. The dimensions, the lettering, the burn pattern in the bottom corner I debated sanding again. My heart thudded slow and deep, not from surprise, from confirmation. It wasn't about the wood, it was the rot underneath the varnish. I didn't say a word as I returned to the house. No door slams, no confrontations, just quiet footsteps and a sharper clarity in my chest than I'd felt in years. The hallway was dim. Most of the guests had gone to bed or left altogether. Laughter still echoed faintly from the den where Dad and Uncle Harold were watching an old Western rerun. I bypassed it all, heading straight to the guest room. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened my laptop. No tears, just focus. A folder on my desktop, home receipts. I'd kept everything. Every transfer I'd made to Mom's account when she said they needed help with bills. A scanned invoice for the artwork shipping. The email thread with Terry Jo about planning the party months ago. The same thread where she'd suddenly gone silent. I clicked into the family group chat backup. Screenshots showed the messages I sent, where I'd said I'd try to make it, and the ones where Terry Jo accidentally deleted them right after. The timestamps told a different story than the one they'd sold each other. I wrote the letter slowly, addressed to both my parents. It wasn't emotional, it wasn't dramatic, it was itemized, blunt, unforgiving. I listed every dollar I'd spent to be here, every moment they'd erased. And at the bottom, I attached a printout of Wendy's Marketplace post with the title circled in red ink. My final line, I'm done pretending this is family. I folded the letter and slid it into an envelope. Then I walked into the kitchen. The house was still, lights off, except the refrigerator casting a pale glow across the tile. I placed the envelope on top of the cake box, the same cake I'd driven through a storm to bring. Neither had been touched. Then I pulled out my phone, texted Casey back in Portland. They wanted quiet, they'll get it. I packed my things in silence. No noise, no notes, no explanations. Before sunrise, I was gone. The front door clicked shut behind me like a final period on a sentence I was done rewriting. They chose not to hear me. The next voice they'll deal with won't be mine. It'll be legal. I was halfway through the drive back to Portland when I finally let myself breathe. Not cry. Breathe. The weight hadn't lifted, not fully, but I could feel something shifting, like my lungs were mine again. The next morning, I sat across from Milton in a downtown cafe. He wore suspenders and a watch that probably hadn't ticked since Reagan was president, but his eyes were sharp. I handed him the folder. Transactions, emails, the group chat screenshots. I need to make this official, I said. He took one look at the spreadsheet showing Terry Joe's family investment transfers from our parents' retirement fund and frowned. We can flag this, potential financial misconduct, maybe even elder abuse. I nodded. Do what you have to. He smiled, not warm but approving. We'll begin with a formal notice and record freeze request, state and federal. 3 days later, the backlash came in like a slap. Email from Terry Joe. Subject, cease and desist. The body read like a tantrum dressed in a pantsuit. You have 72 hours to retract your statements. Any further slander will result in legal action. You are no longer welcome at family functions. You are mentally unstable and aggressive. Attached was a mock draft from a law firm in Sarasota. Milton read it once and chuckled. Google the attorney's name, he said. I did. The first result was a LinkedIn profile that ended with, aspiring paralegal. She's bluffing. I didn't reply to Terry Joe directly. I BCC'd Milton and sent her one line. I look forward to resolving this properly, through federal channels. That night, I opened Instagram for the first time in weeks. I posted a photo of the cake still in my fridge, wrapped in foil. Caption, still fresh, just like my memory. I didn't tag anyone, didn't have to. By morning, I had 7 unread DMs, one from Wendy. You need help, seriously. I left it on read. They had tried to shame me quietly. Now it would all go public, whether they liked it or not. By midweek, my phone buzzed nonstop, text after text, ping after ping. At first, I thought someone had died. Then I opened one from my old coworker, Hannah. Hey, have you seen what your sister posted? I didn't respond, just clicked the link. There it was, Terry Joe in full performance mode. Her Facebook post was a masterpiece of passive aggression. Some people live to ruin what others build, especially when they show up uninvited, stir the pot, and lie about our family's finances. Sad to see someone spiral just to feel seen. It had over 400 likes. Stay strong comments. A few heart emojis from Sarasota locals who hadn't seen me in years. I scrolled through names that used to send me birthday texts. Wendy chimed in with her own reply. She ditched Mom's doctor appointment last month. Didn't even call. Don't believe her sob story. That one hit deeper. Because it wasn't just wrong, it was a lie. And Mom didn't correct it. Then came the unfollows. One by one, names disappeared from my feed. Even my own cousin dropped a line. Just wish you hadn't gone public. This could have been private. Private? They'd lit the match and handed me the gasoline. I stayed silent for another 24 hours. Then I posted 3 screenshots. The original text I sent about coming home. The listing for my handmade gift. Never used, $20 OBO. A cropped chat where Terry Joe said, just delete hers, it's cleaner that way. Caption, silence isn't peace, it's erasure. No tags, no hashtags, comments disabled, just truth. I shut my laptop and left it on the kitchen table like a statement. If they wanted exposure, I'd give them the full picture, one financial record at a time. After I hit post, I didn't wait for the explosion. I went straight to work. Milton and I met again over bitter coffee and legal pads. I handed him a fresh folder, everything I hadn't shared publicly, full bank statements, e-signature metadata, even a flagged transaction that routed money from my parents' retirement fund into an account under Terry Joe's LLC, an LLC that didn't exist before last year. And this? Milton asked, tapping one of the PDFs. A pattern, monthly payments labeled consulting going to Wendy's account. His jaw clenched. We'll start the paperwork for Adult Protective Services. That night, I got a call from Dad. You really had to involve strangers in this? We could have talked. I didn't raise my voice. You had years to talk. I gave you months. You chose silence. He hung up without another word. 2 hours later, Mom's number lit up my phone screen. I watched it ring, let it go to voicemail. I already knew what would be on the other end, a quiet plea wrapped in guilt. But this wasn't about guilt anymore. This was about truth. The next morning, I sent a final package, digitally and in hard copy. 1 email, subject line, for your records. 2, my parents, their estate planner, their tax advisor, their attorney. Attached were the same documents I'd given Milton. No explanations, no venom, just facts. By the second day, Terry Jo's post disappeared. Wendy's account was wiped clean. I didn't gloat, didn't celebrate. I changed my Instagram bio to one line. Truth isn't drama, it's clarity. I didn't burn bridges. I just refused to let them set fire to my name. After sending that last email, something shifted. Not in them, at least not yet, but in me. 2 weeks passed without a peep. No lawsuit, no social posts, just silence. The kind that used to feel punishing now felt like peace. I settled back into my own rhythm, logged hours from my home office, took long walks in the park near my place, and actually started therapy. Real, consistent, no more excuses. I let the stillness do what shouting never could, restore me. Then a small envelope arrived, no return address, just my name in slanted cursive. Inside was a single card, handwritten, my mother's script. We see things now. I just wish we hadn't waited for them to hurt you so loudly first. I read it once, then again. I didn't cry, I didn't crumble. I placed the card in my nightstand drawer, not to forgive, not to forget, but to remember. Not every olive branch deserves a handshake. That afternoon, I emailed their financial advisor. If anything further is needed, please contact my attorney directly. No signature, no warmth. Just another clean line in the sand. 3 days later, I left town. Just me, a weekender bag, and a rental cabin along the Oregon coast. No social media, no family group chats, just the wind, the ocean, and the truth of my own company. The weekend my parents' anniversary dinner had originally been planned, I stood in my little kitchen and baked the same cake I once drove cross-country to deliver. When it cooled, I lit a single candle. I placed an old photo on the table, me, maybe 6 years old, holding both their hands at the beach. Happy anniversary, I said softly. I showed up. That's what matters. Then I sliced 2 pieces, one for the girl in the photo and one for the woman who made it through the storm, and I ate them both without apology. Some wounds stay visible, but so do boundaries, and this time they'll hold. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Silence is not always peace. Sometimes it's self-defense, and walking away doesn't make you weak. It means you finally chose yourself. Family isn't defined by blood alone. It's defined by the people who show up, who see you, who don't make you beg for space or shrink to fit in. And when those people turn out to be strangers in your own home, it's okay to stop knocking on the door. Build your own, paint it your color, lock it if you need to. You don't owe anyone your silence, especially not to keep their image clean. The truth may be messy, but it's also freeing. And once you've stood in your truth, you don't go back to pretending. You grow. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from something or someone you thought was home? What does family mean to you today? Drop a if you've ever felt erased, or just tell me where you're watching from. Let's talk about it. Let's make this space real. And if this story resonated with you, if it tugged at something deep, maybe something you've been carrying quietly, then hit that subscribe button. I've got more stories coming. Stories that dig deep, speak truth, and remind us we're not alone out here. So if you're still here, thank you. Leave a 1 in the comments if this hit you. Or tell me the city you're from. Let's see how far this story travels. And if you didn't like the video, that's okay too. Tell me why. I'm listening. This is not the end. It's just the first chapter of something honest. See you in the next story.